Abominable was written and directed by Ryan Schifrin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and was produced and directed and made around the 2004-2005 area, but didn't get an official release until 2006. And then MVD Rewind came around and re-released it like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not sure exactly what year it was released, but came out in a really cool package. You got the retro design with the slipcover, and MVD is really good at picking out titles, just like a lot of boutique labels are. But this is a pretty much horror action thriller kind of thing. It really reminds me, I mean, the best way to describe it is Rear Window with a Yeti. And it's got that snowy atmosphere, which is perfect for around this time, January, kind of cold weather season. And I decided to revisit a few films that have that kind of theme going on. And we have some horror alumni in this film popping up here as well. We got Jeffrey Combs in here. We have Lance Henriksen. We've got Dee Wallace at the beginning of the film, in the like opening intro of the film kind of thing for the first 2-3 minutes. And we got that actor who I didn't look up his name, but he's in The Breakfast Club and he's in Die Hard, and he's the character actor that everybody knows from those films. Don't know why I didn't look up his name, but lo and behold, he's in here as well playing a sheriff. And basically what we have going on is we have this man named Preston who really looks like a poor man Steve Carell, in my opinion. He recently had an accident. This guy's a rock climber, and he was climbing this rock or mountain called Suicide Rock, conveniently, with his wife, and there was an accident where she unfortunately perished during the climb. And he says in the film that this was like a routine climb, so this is something they've done frequently and we're good at. It was just wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. But I don't even know, his caretaker, I guess, because I don't know what to call this character. This character is a jerk throughout the entire film, and he's there to hate, essentially. His name is Otis, and Otis is Preston's caregiver. Preston is now paraplegic, he's on a wheelchair, and Otis takes him to this cabin around Suicide Rock in the same kind of wilderness area. It's isolated, and it's in the area that he had the accident, I guess, for therapeutic reasons. And Otis is there to watch over him and take care of him, kind of thing, for a week or two or something. It has to do with his recovery, and it has to do with his, I guess, exposure therapy, and to help with the PTSD kind of thing. But Otis has this massive ego complex, and the film opens up where Preston is listening to some music in the car, and then Otis comes in, and we're introduced to the two characters, and Otis gives him this spiel, like he just turns the radio off, and Preston is like, yeah, I was listening to that, what's wrong with you? And he's like, listen, I'm your caretaker for this weekend or whatever, so I'm basically going to lay out the rules, and everything is going to go my way, and the way I see it, we're going to spend the next few days together. Now we can either do that the easy way, or we can do that the hard way. And you're just rolling your eyes at this guy. You're like, this guy really isn't here to care for Preston. This guy is here for his own egotistical satisfaction, his own hero complex kind of thing that he's missing. He clearly has some kind of life satisfaction missing, some kind of deep hole that he's trying to fill. And that's essentially his character. And he just, over and over, you hate this guy, because this guy is always on his high horse, and he's always looking down at Preston with this idea that he keeps, he's there to care for him kind of thing. But that's all like horse shit kind of thing. There's a scene where he goes into this corner store, and in this corner store is Jeffrey Combs' character. And Jeffrey Combs' character plays this guy who's like a heavy ass smoker. He has this cannula on his nose because he's in this oxygen tank, and he's got these like thick glasses. You really wouldn't recognize him as Jeffrey Combs. I didn't until I looked at the cast, because I knew Jeffrey Combs was in the film, but he's so unrecognizable. And a lot of these horror alumni in this film definitely dive into their characters and portray them differently than you see these actors portray other characters in other films. And Jeffrey Combs really reinvents himself in this one. He has these thick glasses, this like trucker hat, and he's just creepy with all his lines. and just that like old timer kind of hillbilly weirdo kind of thing. And Otis in the corner store mentions to him that he's bringing Preston back for the weekend, and the Jeffrey Combs character knows that the wife had passed away, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, she was a real nice woman, real nice woman, real nice." And you can tell his demeanor that he's like had a thing for the wife or something, and he's just totally milking that tone like crazy, that weirdo tone. It's really funny in this movie. This film, it kind of has three things going at the same time. So first of all, you have Preston and Otis, which I just explained, and the cabin that they move into for the weekend. There's these girls staying in the cabin next door, and they're stereotypical like early 20s looking. And they're there to party. They drive in their like Jeep, and they're blasting purely of the times hip hop music. It's great. It's like late 90s, early 2000s hip hop music of the time. And they're dressed in pure 2000s ness. And you can tell they're really from that era of like Christina Aguilera kind of thing, and what they're wearing and everything. And they're very, very cheesy in their acting. I think everybody was asked to act as cheesy as possible in this film to give it that aesthetic, because I wouldn't say the acting is tremendously great from anybody really, and it's very hokey and it's very tropey. But I think that's the point, and especially with the girls in particular, it's really emphasized how like ditzy they are, and they start playing with silly string, and they're they're shooting silly string at each other, and they're just being catty, and the way girls would be catty in like '90s and 2000s tropes, kind of in a demeanor kind of way. So that was funny. So you have them, and then you also have the character of Jeffrey Combs and Lance Hendrickson, who is hilarious in this, by the way, as well. And Jeffrey Combs' character really believes in Yeti, and he goes hunting for Yeti all the time. And him and Lance Hendrickson and this other guy, they're in the forest and they're by a campfire, and they're talking about hunting for Yeti. And Lance Hendrickson's character is the most skeptical and doesn't really believe in the Yeti at all. He's telling Jeffrey Combs this story of this show that he watches. I don't know if the show exists, but it's about people dying in the dumbest ways. Darwin death or something like that. And he tells this story about this guy who glued his hands onto a rhinoceros's ass, and then the rhinoceros shat all over the dude, and he died that way. And the way he tells the story, it's about a 2-minute segment, but literally, Lance Hendrickson can be a comedian in this scene, and Lance Hendrickson as well. You know it's him, but he definitely dives into his character, and he knows exactly what type of character he's playing, and I really, really like that scene. So, all in all, you have these three elements of stories and plots happening at the same time, and it kind of goes back and forth. The two main ones are Preston and Otis, and the girls next door. And Preston likes to view and explore because he has a pair of binoculars, and this is where the rear window elements kind of come in. And he just gets bored a lot, and he's trying to fill his time kind of thing, and he witnesses one of the girls leave the cabin, but then she doesn't return, and he also spots the Yeti a few times outside the cabin, so he's trying to get the attention of the girls to warn them, and he's trying to tell Otis about what he saw, but Otis is not believing him at all. He just thinks he's hallucinating, clearly, because A, Preston is prone to hallucinations with the meds he's taking, but B, Otis is just an egotistical prick, like I said, and has no place or business in even listening to what Preston has to say if he was saying anything sane. There's a scene where he shows up with regular milk, and Preston is like, I'm allergic. Like, did they have no soy milk? And then he like rolls his eyes and makes this big thing. He's like, don't worry, I'll go back and get you your soy milk. 30 minutes, don't worry about it. And he's just being like this sarcastic asshole about it. It's like Preston isn't even being obnoxious about it. He's literally allergic to milk, but Otis obviously doesn't give a shit. But anyways, Preston comes across as like a peeping Tom, and the girls definitely think he's a peeping Tom. He starts emailing the police squad around this area, and is trying to find a way to warn the police in a way that the police would believe him, because he doesn't know how to tell the cops that there's a Yeti on the loose, because that wouldn't make much sense coming from a paraplegic who's on some strong meds either. And up until the climax, of course, when then everybody sees the Yeti for themselves and things start to pick up in the third act. Really, it's just a character development kind of thing where with Preston and Otis, where Preston is seeing a bunch of stuff, trying to warn the people next door, trying to contact the police, and Otis is just being a dickhead as usual. There's a scene where he's mixing a drink, and I think he's mixing seemingly milk with vodka, which sounds disgusting, but he pours the milk and then he just starts pouring vodka in there, and I'm just like, I think I've heard of some people into that, but to me that doesn't sound like the best drink in the world. As for the Yeti, this film comes with an intro by the director, which is quite long. It's like 9 minutes and some seconds, but he really does talk about the origins of the film and stuff like that. And the Yeti is straight up cheesy looking, 100%, and even the director admits this. And it is practical, so it is great in that sense. And there's a lot of gore scenes and kill scenes that are all practical as well, which is nice for a film like this, especially from its time. You had a bunch of movies with a bunch of like CGI fests going on in them around this time. So this one being practical is a very nice touch. Now, there is some CGI used on the Yeti, and that's specifically for its eyes. And even the director states this, that a lot of people found this extremely cheesy and just takes away from the fear. I will agree, but it's still kind of funny seeing this Yeti with like ridiculously bright ass yellow eyes. And every time the Yeti opens his eyes, they're like glowing, and it's just so weird because the rest of him is this guy in a suit kind of thing. But although the design of the Yeti is extremely cheesy, it's still cool looking. Otis gets a fantastic death, being the character that he is, where the Yeti like picks him up and literally bites his entire face off, and like half of his head just comes right into the Yeti's mouth, and it looks great. The blood is great. It's a really effective gore scene, and I like that. There's one scene as well in the third act where one of the girls is on a upper floor, and the Yeti literally bursts through the top of the roof and grabs the chick and brings her down to the lower floor. And with the camera work, it looks exceptional because the Yeti actually literally drags the girl down from the upper floor to the bottom floor. And I really, really like that scene. It was very effective too. So it's a pretty decently shot film. And the practical effects really give this film a lot of character. Even though the characters themselves are, for the most part, really hokey. And like I said, it kind of goes with that specific theme of the movie, the aesthetic that, like, it's done on purpose is basically what I'm trying to get at, and it's done really well for that aspect of it. There is some nudity. You have this scene where this chick is taking a shower, and then Preston is with his binoculars, but he's not staring at the girl. He actually sees a Yeti, and he's like, Otis, come here, I saw this, now it's right over there, literally. And Otis takes the binoculars and just, like, looks to the right, and you can see right through the window the woman showering. So Otis thinks that Preston was looking at the girl, and that he's still full of shit about the Yeti kind of thing. And I don't know, it's a really enjoyable, fun, party kind of movie, and you get that winter vibe to it, the winter aesthetic. I really loved that. And it just has this atmosphere of hokiness and goofiness, but in a very fun way. It's an extremely fun film. Dee Wallace, like I said, she pops up at the beginning. She pops up in like every... She's a horror alumni actress that literally makes a cameo in so much. It's great. And she's not even in the film for that long. But like I said, the film does open up with her and this farmer character in which a Yeti starts to attack their property kind of thing. But the faces you see in this film overall, especially Jeffrey Combs and Lance Henriksen in particular, they're a treat and a hoot to watch in this film. It's so, so good. So yeah, it definitely has a lot of fun moments. There's this scene at the end where Preston is trying to get off the balcony and he uses his rock climbing gear. And one of the final girls, you can say, named Amanda, he's trying to get her down with him. And there's this like car situation where they're trying to escape in the vehicle, but then the Yeti comes and lifts the back of the car, and because it's rear wheel drive, the car's lifted so it's not going anywhere. And there's a effective practical car sequence involving the Yeti as well that's really cool to look at. But overall, this film is fun. Otis and Preston's banter is great, even though Otis, there's nothing to like about the character. That's why his death specifically is so satisfying. But it's a fun film, and I mean it ends off how you think it would end off, kind of thing. There's nothing revolutionary or like twisty or anything like that. Even the final shot is something you can kind of see coming and expect to see. But overall, there's really nothing else to say about it. It comes with a ton of special features, so there's a lot of info on the film itself. The intro with the director is cool to watch once, but it is quite long and it does drag a little bit. But it does give you a lot of insider information about the film. And it's a product of its time like crazy. It did come out like a little bit later than a lot of these monster movies were coming out, because a lot of the tropes in here were definitely more so 90s cliches kind of thing. So it's good to see another one in the mid 2000s do such a good job with the same kind of type of film that it is, and do really well with it. So I really liked Abominable. It's perfect for the winter time, and it feels like winter. It makes you feel cold kind of thing, and it's a fun ride to have with an excellent cast. I think the two main leads who play Preston Notice, I think this might have been both their or some of their first roles. I don't know them from any other film, but even like Otis, the actor, is saying like introducing this guy playing this character kind of thing. So that might have been his first film for sure. But yeah, it's a fun flick overall. So check it out. Go find it on DVD or find it streaming somewhere. And gotta love these like 90s retro inspired covers. They're so well done. Yeah, if you like creature features, this is not one to miss. This is an amazing creature feature. Pretty hilarious, with a lot of gore and a lot of tits. So, what else do you need to say? Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.